Do we have anybody for the,
Oh, I don't know.
don't see anybody. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 6th City Council meeting for the City of Casa Grande. This meeting will come to order. The first two items on the agenda are our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would join us, and Matt, would you mind, please?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather tonight in this great nation and under the laws that we have. And we ask that you bestow wisdom upon us tonight to make good decisions and guide us in making the best decisions for all the citizens of our city. And we thank you for allowing us to live in this great area and enjoy this great weather. And we just thank you for all these opportunities we have in this city. We ask that you watch over all of our citizens, all of the world at this time, and there's a bit of turmoil going on, and we ask that you bless us and the people making those decisions to keep everyone safe, especially our military serving abroad and at home, and our first responders here locally and nationally. All these we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pardon my voice and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lisa. Let the roll call show that everyone is present.
Mayor McFarland, I move tonight to approve the City Council regular meeting minutes from December 16th. And that is all that we have to approve, and so move approval as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the December 11, December 30 minutes, or excuse me, I'm sorry, the December 16th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Claims against the city.
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims dated December 11th through December 30th, 2019 as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the claims. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the claims are approved. Meeting agenda approval. Larry, any changes from staff?
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to just make one move item N, which is reports, to prior to item M, which is the executive session. Anybody else have any changes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda then as changed.
So move. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve tonight's meeting agenda as noted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I can, just one point of clarification from my answer. There is an executive session that has been scheduled for item I-2.
Yeah.
And if an executive session is in fact needed, then in fact we would convene during that item, not at the end of the meeting.
Okay. The second part would be at the end of the meeting?
No.
Pardon me?
Potentially two executive sessions?
No.
Could be.
The second executive session item will be considered at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
But if there is a need to go into executive session for item I-2, then we would do that during the meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, we have a special presentation tonight. A couple of them, actually. First one is Mr. Timothy Church. Tim, you here?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, front and center.
Come on down.
I've known Tim since he was a pup.
You didn't know you were going to get embarrassed tonight, did you?
Probably.
Well, tonight we're recognizing Tim for his service to the city. We're so grateful for your service and over the past, since I think 1995. So Tim started with the city as a maintenance worker in October 1994. I said 95, it's 94. quickly got promoted to equipment operator in December of 1995. He continued to excel in his career in the sanitation division, and within 2 years was promoted heavy equipment operator. On May of 1997, Tim spent the majority of his time with the city operating heavy equipment in the city's landfill. Tim's knowledge of the equipment and facility and the overall operations of the landfill earned him the position of crew leader in September of 2012. Tim has continued as crew leader for the past 7 years. He has managed the overall operations, operators training, equipment management, and so much more. Tim leaves with an abundance of knowledge and history over his tenure with the city. He has been a valued asset to the landfill. He'll truly be missed, and his boots will be hard to fill. So big thank you to all your hard work and your dedication. We'd also like to wish you well in the future, in your future retirement. You gonna have some fun?
I've been planning on it. I hope so.
Mayor, he may have a speech prepared, I don't know.
You have a speech prepared? I heard you were a man. I heard you were a man of few words.
Not too much to say, but thank you.
Tim, this says for outstanding service to the city of Casa Grande, October 3rd, 1994. We missed it by a couple days, but 1994 to December 31st, 2019. Thank you again, Tim, and congratulations. All right, next item on the agenda is F2. It's an update from the Chamber of Commerce on the community marketing organization. Renee, you're up. Not Rena, sorry, Renee. Sorry.
Good evening. I understand that this was presented to the group in the beginning of May, and so I'm going to still review all of the slides, and then I'll wrap up with talking about where we are in our timeline now. And again, the proposal is that we hopefully end up with a decision this evening. So about the proposed community marketing office, up? Yeah. Can you all see that?
Yep.
We need to do a better job of marketing our community. And it's not necessarily marketing the city, it's marketing our community, Casa Grande. And the proposal of forming this organization would bring together multiple resources under one roof and the financial resources to support activities to promote and advertise our community internally and externally. We want, let's be honest, when people love where they live, they tell people about it, and then people want to come there too, or come visit. That's why they all end up here. So every place is unique. So if you look at that, you have the Venn diagram there where the three different entities, the destination marketing, which is the Chamber of Commerce, economic development, which is partnership and collaboration with the city of Casa Grande, and the Chamber of Commerce, all working in one direction, all feet in the same pointed in the same direction to market the community. And with an integrated place marketing environment, we can address economic development, tourism, Chamber of Commerce, lifestyles, and relocation. Not many communities have this resource all together under one roof, and it gives us this unique opportunity to collaborate but have everything happen in one place with a concerted effort. We want to compete against other cities. We know that. And that means making sure that other cities and people who are looking for locations, whether it be for business, whether it be for bringing concerts or events, whether it be for winter visiting, they're looking at all of Arizona, and we want to be a front runner in that list of where people are looking.
Aaron, pull your mic down.
I'm sorry?
Pull the microphone down a little. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so Do you want me to repeat that?
No, that's fine.
So let's talk about the assets we have in Casa Grande. We have knowledgeable workers. We do have businesses coming in and making an investment here. We have cultural events. We have sporting events, technology and innovation, diversity. I get ahead of myself. Migration and infrastructure. However, there's not enough. That's the idea of the CMO, which I will continue to use that phrase now, is to have that infrastructure for marketing, effectively marketing our community. The CMO would have an advisory board, and that would be representative of the chamber, of the city, the Downtown Alliance, 2 to 3 hotel representatives, as well as 2 to 3 private business representatives. In fact, the hotelier that we've worked with closely over the past several months was supposed to be here this evening and was not able to make it, but was very pivotal in helping convene a group of hoteliers and managers to sign letters of support. The proposed budget is assuming a $360,000 budget with a breakdown of $80,000 for CMO staff salaries and benefits. That's not necessarily one person. There's multiple people in the organization, but it will be bringing in one key person whose focus is on marketing the community. But the whole office will be impacted by this activity and taking on the CMO. Beautification events, administrative expenses, office needs and supplies, but the largest portion of that budget is focusing on marketing, creating print collateral to have in brochure stands throughout the state of Arizona at the airport, so that when people land and they're looking for what else am I going to do when I come to Arizona, they're going to see Casa Grande there. Visitor website tied to the chamber, public relations, more social media about the city. And so it's an estimated and proposed $360,000 total. Something else to consider is because of our unique position, and I'll use a grant that we received this past year as an example, it's a $5,000 matching grant. So the city partnered with the chamber and downtown to apply for $5,000 with Local First and the Arizona Office of Tourism for a branding campaign. And that's a $5,000 match. You can match up to $50,000, so that if we were to effectively apply for and successfully apply for those funds, that could be $100,000 in advertising and assistance with developing a campaign and things like that.
That'd be an additional 100,000.
That would be an additional $50,000 on top of that 360. The preferred funding mechanism would be the transient occupancy or bed tax. It is paid for by visitors, and the proceeds would therefore be reinvested to attract new visitors and businesses to the community. Current retail sales tax is 1.8% to the general fund and 2% bed tax, which currently is allocated to youth and youth services, and that will remain as is. Most jurisdictions in Maricopa County collect a 5% bed tax. Pima County is even higher at 6%. Raising the bed tax by 3% from the current 2% to a total of 5% should provide the desired level of funding, and 100% of the increase would be used to support these marketing efforts. It's proposed that the chamber and city partner, or that the city partner with the chamber, an existing organization, to create this organization called the Community Marketing Organization. When there was a presentation in May, there was a discussion of a timeline, next steps, the study session with the City Council, that was completed in May, meeting with hotels and to ask for signing on a letter of support. That has occurred. There's only one hotel that did not sign support, and it's because they're currently going through internal restructuring. And then council action and public hearing, January 2020, and here we are. So I hope that the City Council will consider this request and vote affirmative to move this tax forward so that we can get marketing this city. Once that's done, there would be an implementation in the second quarter of 2020, and that would be for the tax itself, and then we would be opening the CMO in the third quarter of 2020. Any questions?
I've got a comment. Something that you said tonight that was interesting was, and goes right along with our strategic plan, is marketing. It's one of the major points of our strategic plan. So and our marketing on our strategic plan focuses as some internal stuff too. And you hit it tonight. Said when people are proud of where they live, they talk about it better. And obviously, I'm proud to live here. But if we publicize it more, even to our own residents, about, because a lot of people still don't know what we have going on here in Casa Grande, and if we publicize it better to our own residents, this is definitely going to help that. Another interesting part is my dad. The funny part is my dad said this, and he has lived here almost his whole life. He knows Casa Grande. He doesn't much get involved in any of the city politics or anything, but he goes, I was at Sky Harbor and they have all those ads there. We're not in there. And my dad noticed that, which to me was very telling, because he usually doesn't, notice things like that. So I was like, wow, I never noticed you weren't in there, because I've never looked for it. But that's an important part of this, is just getting it out around the state, because when people come into the state, a lot of times they're looking for stuff to do, and they say, hey, we've got 2 weeks to spend. We're going to go visit this and that. Oh, wait, Casa Grande's on our way, or we'll go to Casa Grande for this. So this is a great way to do that. And if we can get that matching grant of $50,000 from the state, that's going to really help out our advertising.
And we're currently in this brand development, already one step into loving Casa Grande and building that local pride for their hometown. And I wasn't born and raised here, but this is my town. I have a back home, but this is home. And I think when people choose to live here, they maybe end up in Casa Grande for various reasons, but it would be really neat to remind them how come they love living here. And those people will be our influencers and out marketing Casa Grande for us as well with our messages. And then our efforts will also be external to those people who should be moving here instead of, those overcrowded cities up there.
Well, I do know too that if the budget is done correctly, there's monies set in there for events.
Yes.
So, and then also potentially there's city beautification, which is part of that. I don't know if you noticed the budget in there. And I think that also could go towards, for example, us finishing the underpass at Union Pacific. And maybe even helping clean up blight. So those types of things could be done through this CMO and is part of the plan moving forward. So, and I also see, I know a lot of the chamber board is here. If you all would raise your hand, I know you're sitting out there quietly in support. Thank you guys for being here. Also, I see Rena and Main Street's board chair is also here. Richard, you can raise your hand too. So, and Rena over here. So thank you guys for coming out tonight. Mr. Powell, you had a question?
I just had a question. I've heard, and I just wanted to run it by you. The hotels seem to be comfortable with doing this.
Yes, they are.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Because that's usually the issue is so.
When we convened the group of hoteliers together,
Yeah.
there was one of the hoteliers, Payush Patel, who participated in presenting and talking to everyone, because he really thinks and believes that everyone will benefit from this. The residents will benefit from this, the hotels will benefit, our businesses will benefit. More people coming to Casa Grande year-round means that we're not necessarily having that make hay while the sun shines during the winter visitor season. That's a question that was just asked today, like, do we do enough during the winter to keep everyone in the black all year long? Well, for some businesses, maybe not, but the more people we can get coming here all year long, then it's win-win. Everybody wins.
Well, the marketing brings in a lot more business for the hotels and the motels, so that makes a lot of sense.
And our proximity to Interstate 10 and to other destinations is really, I think, an asset for us. And, through really good development of not marketing tools, but also finding other gems to polish, will not just be attractions in Casa Grande, but will make us a destination as well.
Yeah, Lisa?
My voice.
I understand.
You talked about love my city, And at the National League of Conference, just as a reference, you might want to go online because they did a whole Love My City campaign, different cities, and there's some great examples of things that people were doing. And so I was just talking to Larry about it a couple weeks ago. It's something really simple to put different things in the park and have people take pictures of, CG and, all for social media and everything, but really great examples. That's a good reference.
If I had a pen, I'd write it down, Love My City.
It's Love My City.
League of Cities?
And just a comment and a question, one of the things, when you're talking about a $200,000 budget, it does sound like a lot, but it's really not.
No.
But I'm hopeful that as part of that, because we're talking about sharing the wealth with our local businesses, that, the printing and those kind of things would happen as much, as possible, if not all, in our city. And so that's really important. And as far as letting the community know, I think Matt made a really good point that we need to let our citizens know what's going on. Well, what about our local businesses that are part of the chamber and, part of what's already going on? How are we going to educate them and let them know, what this project is all about?
Well, we have a weekly newsletter. And keeping them in the know by telling them that this is happening, and here's the progress, and here's the group of people that have been formed to be the advisory committee, and maybe updates on checkpoints. Just like I discussed the timeline here, it would be the same thing. Here we are at Q2, and this is occurring in the city. We're at Q3, and we've
There's also a
recruiting.
social media component as
Yes.
well. So the social media, like for example, using Blossom or somebody like that, one of our local
Yeah, they
social
have a lot
media
of reach.
agencies, we could certainly, we would certainly.
And that's my point,
Yeah.
support local
Yep,
by,
absolutely.
When we presented to the hoteliers, to the managers, because we really wanted to make sure that we had their support to move forward on this, I actually had flown back east for a family gathering, and on the airplane, on American Airlines, I've told Larry this, it just cracks me up. How many of you know where Del Rio, Texas is? All right, one. My son was based there, so I've driven to and from there once. And it is a little town on the border of Texas and Mexico, 2.5 hours west of San Antonio. It's not near an interstate. It is a desert town, rolling hills to and from, but itself is a very small town, somewhat isolated from everywhere else, and they have a reserve, a lake. I opened this magazine and American Airlines, and there's a full-page ad marketing Del Rio, Texas. And I think we have so much more than that community has. Why aren't we doing the same thing? And we could. We could be doing that.
One other thing I think that's been a problem is you see a lot of the communities that are advertising television, which most of us watch, and making more connections with those stations to make sure we get our events advertised on there. We had, luckily with the Cowboy and Indian Days, or Oldham Tosh, we had the Channel 15 came down, and it was 4 in the morning they came down, but we got a good advertisement from that, and we've got a lady that's working with us right now that's really been helping us get into more of those kind of sources. But I think Casa Grande needs to be recognized more for events because we have a lot of events that go on, like we just had the ride for the war. I mean, it turned out fantastic, and I think everybody I talked to had fun. So we got a car show coming up downtown. I mean, there's a number of things we can advertise.
The Home Health and Garden Show this Saturday down at the Promenade. So I agreed. It would be a more concerted effort focusing on all of Casa Grande's events.
Any other questions or comments?
good job.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I can, there is not a formal action on this item tonight. Obviously, it was an opportunity for the council to get updated on the progress that's been made, but more important, at the last council meeting when the presentation occurred, the direction was for the chamber to go out to the whole feedback, which they've done, and this was the primary purpose for that. Staff's intention is to bring back the necessary documents for council to consider a tax increase at the next council meeting.
Okay. Will we have the MOU with the chamber done by then, or is that a later action?
Yeah, from Mr. Mayor, members of the council, from my perspective, I'm anticipating that we will begin to work on a draft document related to a partnership agreement, maybe, and Ms. Luzon Ben and I have had some discussions about that. It could be that we end up with a separate agreement for this particular fiscal year. But ultimately, we want to tie that, obviously, with the collection of the tax and those types of things. So we'll begin to work on that from a staff's perspective as well.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, just a point of clarification to what City Manager Rain said is, we talked about starting the process for the tax increase. Arizona law does require taking any action, us doing a 60-day notice of intent. So that would be the first step that we'd be asking council to do, is to move forward with the notice of intent. And then after that 60 days has expired, then you could consider whether to pass the tax increase. So that there's some statutory prerequisites that have to be met before we'll be considering any tax increase.
Okay. Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is item G, which is our consent agenda items. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There be no separate discussions of these items unless a city council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. I want to make a note, too, that we had an addendum to the weekly agenda which added an item G7, which is the Main Street closing for the fair that's coming up. So that was added to it, just so everybody knows.
Do we need to
Yes.
note that?
Well,
Motion or?
I just made a motion. If you want to just give me a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the items listed in G 1 through 6 and including 7 as the addendum.
Okay.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortzen.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item is item H, which is public comment. So at this point in time, I will open the floor to the public. And whether you filled out a request to speak or not, you may come to the podium and speak. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and your address for me, please.
Good evening, Mayor. John McGuire, 1748 North St. Francis Place. I'm only up here tonight just because one of the 2 items on the agenda is not technically a public hearing. I just would like to make sure that at some point you're going to discuss in your presentation tonight on the smart work side of things, why current city employees are not included or not desired to be part of this program. I can see good and bad on both. I just want to make sure that that was discussed and can get a couple answers on that tonight for that particular item. And since it wasn't a public hearing, I just wanted to come up now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else, then I'll close the public comment section and we'll move to the first item on our agenda under the awards of contracts, item I1. This was on the, Stephen?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It's a recommendation from staff to approve the contract with Audiovisual Innovations for the amount of $131,024.03. Rates to our AV here in the council chambers and production room. Is there any other questions that we didn't cover in the study session?
Mary has a comment or
First of all,
question?
thank you for finding a good quality company to do this. It sounds like they've really nailed what we needed to do. Also, this is, of course, we all know has been long in coming. It's important that our community have good access to our meetings and I also like the idea that we're
not getting a whole new screen that we're going to be, as far as I know, I can't remember ever using that in all the years I've been on council. So I appreciate that they are using that, but,
You're going to resurface it too.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment. This equipment, I don't know the date that it came in here, but I think it's been well used. And I would add also that I spent years out in the audit department head, quite often not being able to hear what was said and not being able to read what was on the screen. So I'm excited that we're making these upgrades and, as Mary said, making these meetings more accessible and more observable for our citizens. So.
And this was approved in the current CIP.
CIP.
So,
Yes.
which is our capital improvement project, so it's coming out of that funding.
And it's under budget.
It's under
And
budget.
it's in budget.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, then I would consider an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 3180, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting the bid for Vision Innovations, Inc. for the purchase of audio and visual upgrades to the city's council chamber and production room, authorizing expenditure of public funds in an amount not to exceed $131,024.03, and authorizing the execution of a contract with Audio Visual Innovation, Inc.
Mayor McFarland, I move for the approval of ordinance number 3180 as presented.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda is I-2. Scott, is that you?
Mayor McFarland, members of the council, we're asking this evening for your approval of an agreement with SmartWorks Plus, Inc. to provide staffing services for the city of Casa Grande. A little bit of history or back history. SmartWorks Plus parent company, Smart Schools, was one of two organizations that were established a number of years ago in response to the demographics coming into play and basically in the school districts with the number of teachers who were eligible for retirement under the Arizona State Retirement System exiting the classroom, to provide a way for schools to be able to contract back those teachers and allow them to receive the retirement benefits that they'd earned with the Arizona State Retirement System, ASRS. And out of that grew SmartWorks Plus, and ESI is another company that's involved. And they expanded their service to public entities beyond school districts. This would put another tool in our tool bag as we seek to compete in a very competitive work environment for many classifications out there. And certainly it's a little bit, I'm going to say it's going to be applicable to those who've been involved in Arizona State Retirement System and not in public safety retirement system. And I say that because, first of all, state statutes specifically speak to the issue of reemployment for individuals who are retired from PSPRS that would preclude this. And the second is that the Deferred Retirement Option Program exists for employees who are in PSPRS, where on their option, they can enter into the drop program for a maximum of 5 years, and they literally retire, but they continue to be employed. Their benefits stay the same, and their retirement benefit is placed into an interest-bearing account on their behalf for a maximum of 5 years. So that's already available, and we have a number of employees in our police and fire department that are engaged in the drop program. So this would really be applicable to Arizona State Retirement System only. And the presentation the recommendation that's before you this evening that's grown out of a number of conversations relates specifically to two specific employee types. Number one is that we're specifically speaking to those ASRS employees who are employed in other public entities in the state of Arizona who might be eligible for retirement, might want to continue to work, and may want to apply for a position with the city of Casa Grande. And it just so happens that a great example of that is we opened our recruitment today for our next finance director. And so it's a very competitive, and in the competition for finance directors in the state is very keen. There's, I think, 3 or 4 If you look at the League of Cities and Towns job site, you'll see 3 or 4 out there right now. So this would help us possibly into attracting somebody in that unique set of circumstances. So that's one class. The second class specifically focuses on one employee in the city right now, and that's the city manager. And that's explained a little further in the presentation or the material that's been provided for you this evening. But beyond that, other city employees who may be eligible for retirement under ASRS, who may want to take advantage of the program, what's before you this evening, as it stands right now, would not apply to those individuals. We've had some internal discussions, and we're talking about developing some specific guidelines that would bring more structure into those employees who might be qualified for that. And if we refine those, we'd be bringing that back to you at a later time. We'll be talking about issues like whether the individuals have had good performance evaluations, whether they are engaged in projects that are important, whether they bring institutional memory that's important for us to preserve, other kinds of factors like that that might bring them into the possibility. And of course, again, the draw program on the PSPRS side is totally at the initiative of the employee. That's their decision to make. And this, for ASRS employees, is totally in the city's discretion. So there's nothing automatic about this in any way, shape, or form. And so we're trying to frame that up. And if we're able to do that successfully, then it would have to be brought back to you at a later time unless you give us different direction this evening. So this agreement, again, is before you. There's representative savings that would accrue specifically for both the city manager and others who come from other places as well. One of those is that the normal retirement contribution for employers, an ASRS, it's 50-50 match, just under 12% for employees and the employer. We would not pay that, but we're required to pay an alternate contribution rate for these employees, and that is 1.7% less. So right off the top, there's a less contribution for retirement, and that ACR, or alternate contribution rate, is paid to make sure that these arrangements don't have a negative impact on the retirement system. And those dollars flow into the unfunded liability of ASRS. So it was conceived that way to make sure that these arrangements didn't adversely impact the retirement system as a whole. The normal benefits that have to be paid, Social Security and unemployment, and those things are part of the deal, and the contract that we have with SmartWorks Plus makes that part of the agreement. As far as other kinds of benefits, health insurance benefit package or what have you, that would not be included. That's the employee's responsibility during the contract period. So that's also a savings that would accrue to the city. So we truly feel like it's a win-win for both the city and the employees in this situation. And I hope that we've been clear in both the staff presentation and then the work that our city attorney has done on the ordinance to make it clear exactly what we're talking about and the proposal that's presented, the recommendation that's being presented to you this evening. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and perhaps the city attorney would be available to talk about any legal aspects as well.
I've got a comment that came up about a question earlier, is that the city council has 3 employees really that work directly for the city council: city manager, city attorney, and the city magistrate, which is totally separate. So one thing about this contract is, as the city council doing this, it really only applies to the employees of the council. And like you said, at a later date, city management is trying to frame something up for this for different employees because they don't work directly for the council. Is that correct?
This proposal simply envisions only the city manager position, not the other 2. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Lisa?
So, Brett, if you can, I guess I was a little confused on the ordinance because I didn't find it that clear. So, this is something that I've been concerned with. But of course I know that it's a unique situation, and I think, by keeping our current city manager is really important for us, and I understand the situation he's in, but it concerns me because I do feel that it's good to have new people come within our organization and do succession planning and recruit and train and develop people. So this has been a concern of mine as far as opening the door and creating a precedent to, for this happening to all of our employees and we get no one new coming through. So when I read through the ordinance, I was just a little confused because I didn't think it was that clear, that it's just for the city manager and you're saying it's the employees of other public entities. So can you tell me where on that ordinance, what am I missing?
Yeah, in paragraph 1 of the ordinance itself, your council is only authorizing the city to enter an agreement with Smart Schools for employment for 2 groups. The first is eligible ASRS retirees from agencies other than the city of Casa Grande. So it does not apply to City of Casa Grande employees, but a City of Florence employee, City of Phoenix employee, any other ASRS eligible. And B, for an eligible ASRS retiree for the position of city manager only for Casa Grande, which may be a retiree from Casa Grande. So it wouldn't allow for my position, it wouldn't allow for Mr. Church's position or any other position in the city of Casa Grande. And as Mr. Barber said, as staff works through some of those criteria, if it's the desire of council that we do so, then we can bring back maybe a proposal for when that would work. But at this point, it's only doing 1 employee for the city of Casa Grande because the council has that ability to make that. This is a very unique situation, obviously a very unique employee in the city that council's had the opportunity to review and to do those. We didn't feel at this point, given some of those concerns, that we wanted to make a recommendation, and I think the ordinance hopefully is clear that it's only for those 2 classes, and the contract cannot exceed the authorization that's given you in the ordinance. So it wouldn't allow for my position or anyone else in the city of Casa Grande other than the position of city manager.
Okay. And then, so would Larry have the ultimate say on those other positions? Say it's a finance director, would it come to Larry, before Larry, the final authorization for that contract?
Ultimately, Mr. Raines is the city manager and in charge of all of our employees, so he can look and do that. And keep in mind, this is also a very narrow piece because the prohibition, it's not even a prohibition. We can hire whoever we want, and any ASRS retiree could come work for us tomorrow. There's just no incentive for them to do that because they would then forfeit and have to refund their retirement benefits. But it really only applies, they really only have that restriction for the first year. Once they've been retired for 365 days, they no longer have that. And we may be hiring employees that have retired from ASRS and other positions, and we wouldn't even really know that until we actually got in and found out we were going to be making an alternate contribution rate for some of them. So it's a very narrow piece, and as Mr. Barber said, it's designed to capture someone who might be in that unique position. For example, for finance directors saying, I want to retire from Tucson, and I'm not saying the Tucson finance director should apply or shouldn't apply. I want to retire from Tucson and come down here because it's a benefit to them. It's generally a benefit to us as well because they're willing to fit within our criteria where they might not. And similarly, in the position of city manager, as it's noted in the materials, we're talking about bringing them in, if it was approved and we went forward, at step 1, which is a significant savings to the city over what the retirement is. It makes sense for the employee. It also makes sense for the city.
So will we as a council, since we hire the city manager, will we see the contract, the SmartWorks contract, after we approve this ordinance, will we approve that contract?
Yeah, well, you are approving the contract tonight, authorizing us to do it in a form approved by the city attorney. And the SmartWorks contract is right there for you. What you're really looking at is trying to fill that position of city manager. Right. And we could have, or if you wanted, I could insert into the contract that council would, by resolution or at least by motion, have to approve the hiring of the city, of adding the city manager to the roster of employees. But the contract itself, we're asking for your approval tonight in doing that. It is an ordinance because of the possibility of budget transfers and the amount essentially that could be spent on that. So it requires 2 readings in 30 days before we would do anything. But if you do want us to bring it back, I could work with them to say that for the position of city manager, that at least by motion you would approve, who that person would be, which makes all the sense in the world to me. but are asking for you to approve the contract just so we can go. In the form that it really is the exhibit that deals with the roster that makes all the difference in terms of who you're bringing in. And the roster would generally be amended administratively as we bring employees in, because we don't know who they're going to be. They'll have to contract, the employee themselves has to contract with SmartWorks. And then when they do, they provide people and say, hey, here's some people that might be of interest to you, right, or have interest in your position, who then they actually work for SmartWorks. But the contract is the one that you see before you tonight. And it's really that inclusion of the roster. And since it is in a form approved by the city attorney in the way that we've got it drafted, I can certainly make sure that at least by motion, you approve the inclusion of the city manager.
Right. I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bell.
I just would like to comment. I think that we've really made a lot of progress in the last 6 or 8 years. A lot of industry coming in, a lot of growth. The housing market is back to, you can check with John on that, it's back to a healthy status. And we have somebody that's leading us, our leader, who's very unique. And he's been here, came here as a financial officer and ended up as a city manager for actually the last term that Jim was supposed to be in. I shouldn't say that, but and then the 2 more after that. But he's such a key to what we do and how we do it that it's like shutting off the engine before you get to the end of the road. And we're not to the end of the road. We're trying to climb a hill, and we need somebody that's really, really good to do that. And we have that kind of faith in Larry. And that's why we want to not make him have to suffer financially, which he would have to under certain circumstances, but that he would be able to come back and or stay here and work with us and lead us into the future. There'll come a time when Larry will probably want to say goodbye to everybody, but that's not that time right now, and we certainly don't want to say goodbye to him.
Are you okay? Yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Bob?
I want to echo everything that Mr. Powell said. I totally agree with all of that. The other thing about this ordinance is what Scott Barber said, that this is another tool in our toolbox. And I think it's one that is reserved for special need. It's almost a break glass when needed type thing. And I think we found ourselves in a position where we needed to break the glass. And this solves the problem and saves us money at the same time. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to make a comment. You know, based on the information that we have here, when we are dealing with employees, you know, sometimes we have to take the employee itself out of the picture and look at the position. And if we do that with Mr. Raines, I don't think in all good conscience we will ever find the same replacement or better where we're at, like Mr. Powell said, that the expertise that this position has developed over the past years has put us in a new place. And so I don't think that we can afford to lose that. And so while we're talking about Larry, and everybody in the room knows that, I think what we're talking about is the position of the city manager that we have right now. It would be detrimental to this city to lose that expertise. And I think that that's really what we're looking at.
Well, in addition, and Bob said it, is that it also gives us a tool in our hiring tool chest to go out and get that, maybe that extra experienced person. And I think at our position in the history of the city today, and faced with what we're faced, we need to have that ability. Right. So I think it's very appropriate. So any other questions? I don't want to rush this one, so.
Call for the question.
Okay. Can I get a ordinance number, please, Gloria?
Ordinance number 3179, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving the terms and conditions of an agreement with with Smart Schools Plus, Inc. to provide staff services by contract for employment and recruitment services, authorizing expenditure of public funds to the extent budgeted for any contracted positions through the agreement, authorizing transfer of budget authority between accounts, and authorizing execution of an agreement.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 3179 as presented.
Second.
Okay, before we go on, just want to make sure then you're clear what Lisa has asked for to add to your piece.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
ultimately, what the ordinance does is it allows the city manager to execute the contract, which I don't even think he really wants to do at this point, just because of who it is, but in a form approved by me. My understanding and my intent in doing this contract is to make sure that for the position of city manager, that council authorization to include the city manager on that roster would be required.
Okay, you're good? Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Gloria?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Courtson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. I don't think we need to go into executive session then, at least not yet. So we'll move to, I think reports are next. So I think I'll start over here with you, Lisa. You can go first.
Reports? I really don't have much, and I can't talk that much, so I'm gonna pass till the next one.
Mr. Powell, how about you?
The meetings that the water board that has been put together, stakeholders board, that is looking at water in Pinell County and how to get approval for certain projects. We've got one that's, I think we're all aware of, it's been sitting out there with a $22 million investment, and they haven't been able to get an assured water guarantee. So working hard for it. You guys, I think you and the mayor, Larry, heard it today on the, and as I say, it was a good meeting. Steve Miller is the chairperson, and he does a really good job. We also, I think one of the smartest things is we have the director of Arizona Department of Water Resources, the one that ran it for years, and also the ones from Maricopa that are the two people that help get us online to figure out this stuff. And it gets pretty complicated. Water's a big issue, and growth is going to be very affected by the availability of growth. If they can't get the approved water supply, 100-year water supply, it's going to sit and go to waste. So as I say, I think that the first two meetings have been good. He's broken it up into, Steve has, into smaller groups that can look into different areas and come back with recommendations. But I want to pat Steve on the shoulder for doing a really good job on helping organize this and get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
That's good for me.
Okay. Mary?
I don't have a whole lot. I just wanted to say is I'm really excited. I'm really glad that we're looking at our Trails Master Plan and that we're expanding it. And it looks like we're taking in a good area of the city and maybe parts of the city that aren't often served. Really like the idea that we might have a place that's dedicated to our 5K runs. Might give us some energy there and bring other groups that might want to do that. And again, the other thing that I'm excited about is the CMO. I think this is something that we've needed for a long time with the marketing. I was actually up in Flagstaff.
Councilmember Corson, I apologize. I don't want to stop you, but
That's right,
just a
that's right.
reminder,
I forgot.
when it comes to reports, we can only report on current events, and they should not be items that this council will be considering at a future date, or we end up discussing items that you're going to be voting on,
I'm
or
excited we're
potentially
doing
voting
marketing.
on at
How
a later
about
date.
that? And I will leave it at that. I forgot about that.
Are you done?
Yes, I am. So you didn't put up your thing going, you cannot discuss that.
Matt?
I don't have a lot. Just hope everyone had good Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and here's to 2020. Happy New Year, everybody, in our first meeting. Went pretty smoothly, so thanks.
Donna?
Just three quick things. It seems like so long. Hats off to the city, the employee holiday lunch that we had right after our last meeting. It was really great to see so many employees out there having a good time. So the community center was used, and it was just a really nice time. Also wanted to just kudos to the fire department. They had a great awards banquet. They hadn't had it in a number of years, and that happened the last Friday before Christmas. And some of us were able to attend, and they were able to give out some awards, and got to see some of the chiefs dance, and that was a little bit funny. And then the third thing was thanks to the city for allowing us. We had the DUI task force here for Pinal County. We probably had 50, 60 officers in here during the course of any one given time, and we had Pinal County was in our city, as was our police department, and then DPS was in full force and keeping our city safe, and we appreciate everything that the chief did and all of his officers. So with that, Happy New Year.
Bob?
Mayor, I had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. And, other than that, no report.
No coal in your sock?
No.
All right. Things that I've got, I want to remind everybody again about our boards and commissions. We still have 3 openings, 1 on our Board of Appeals, 2 on the Board of Adjustments, and we have some coming open here on the Police Advisory Board. So if you're interested in, looks like 2 openings on the Police Advisory Board. So if you're interested in any of those board volunteer positions, I will remind you it's volunteer. We do appreciate everybody's participation in those boards. They're a key, really a very important element to the city of Casa Grande. Gives us input from our community, and that's extremely important. Also, I want to give a big shout out to the economic development guys, Richard and Fernando, for their new economic development newsletter. That the first one came out in December, I think just after Christmas, but if you haven't read it, it's really, really good, and this is going to be a monthly event, and it will be loaded with good information. So I would encourage you, if you haven't signed up on the city's website to get notifications from the city, this is one of those things that will automatically come to you if you're interested. Just go to our website, and then you can plug in Economic Development Newsletter, and you can also sign up for it. So it'll be coming out on their Facebook, comes out on their LinkedIn, so it's all over the place. And this is the kind of stuff that I've been trying to get us to do for about 3 years now, and we're finally doing it. So I'm excited, and thank you, Richard, for all yours and Fernando's work on this.
Is that available to anybody in the community?
Anybody, yeah, anybody. If you sign up, you'll get the notification. So it's a great piece. Also want to remind everybody about Census 2020. I told you to be sick of hearing from me on this, but Census 2020, March 12th is the key date that the census will be available online. Now, everyone who has a home and is registered will get a notice from the government, but that probably won't come out before March 12th. But I want everybody who is a winter resident to know that if you live here and you're here, sign up and be counted, because it's important. It's worth probably about $3,000 per person that we get counted. So as it says on here, we all count CG, so get counted. The whole water situation is important. Mr. Powell and I are enrolled in a Sonoran Institute Smart Water event that's coming up in February. It's actually taken a lot more work to put this thing together than I expected, They asked for reams of information and about 6 different surveys. So it should be interesting. I'm hoping that out of it, we can get some additional water policy that we can bring forward to the general plan, and which then the citizens will be able to vote on. So we should be able to add some meat in terms of policy and hopefully water conservation and that sort of thing. I'm also attending an I-10 widening update meeting at MAG tomorrow, so hopefully at our next meeting I'll have some additional information on I-10 widening as well as 347, which is obviously the Maricopa connection. So we'll see what happens there. Working on a branding focus thing with the Chamber of Commerce, and hopefully we'll have that meeting this week as well, and we'll hopefully come out with some additional information that we can kind of share with everybody as we move forward. I think that's about it. I do want to just remind everybody we are in the middle of the general plan steering update. We also have the complete count or the, what's it called, the point in time?
Yeah,
Point in time count, which there's some training. When is the training? 16th of this month. And then the count is actually going to be on what date? The 21st? No, 24th. So the count itself will be on the 24th. So if you want to volunteer and you want to help us count homeless, I know Lisa will be there. I know I will be there. I think Donna usually attends as well. So it's 6:30 in the morning. We'll be over at the Resource Center on the 24th. You do need to go to the training, though, which is on the 16th. But if you want to give the city a call, we can give you additional information on that. But we do need as much help as possible in that area. That's all I have. Happy New Year, everybody, and thank you for coming out tonight. I think we'll take a short recess because we're going to move into executive session. But thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I need a motion to go into recess?
So move.
You can do it either way, but you can move into executive session and then recess.
Okay.
Okay. I move that we go into executive session.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify.
Richard, can you wait a minute?
Aye.
All right, we'll take a short recess.